Imagine this. You follow the law for an international layoff to the T. You dot your I's, you cross your T's, but 6 months later, you see that exact same person across the table and next to your biggest client. And they're challenging you in not a nice way. Uncomfortable? Hello, and welcome to my LinkedIn Live today. I'm excited you're joining me in. And this is not a hypothetical. I wish it would be, but it's not. And it happens. I've seen it happen multiple times. And here's the thing. I've been on both sides of the table. I've been part of an HR team that has to communicate the tough decision. And also, I have been the person being laid off. And what is it that I've learned through this is that legal compliance does not equal respectful treatment. They're not always on the same side of the table. And today I would like to share with you 3 stories. And names have been changed to protect the innocent, but everything else stays exactly as it happened. These are stories that talk about culture, about respect, and about how even small mistakes can lead to big problems. I'm going to keep it to 15 minutes today, so 3 stories, some practical takeaways that you can use immediately. Ready? Let's start with the first story. We have a French-American IT company, and the financial controller, let's call him Pierre. He's been with the company for 20 years. 20 years. He started when it was small and he saw the company grow. Then the company restructured. This is quite normal. It's a business cycle. Business cycles is like the year and the seasons, it changes. And this time Pierre's position is being eliminated. Now, here's what they did legally right. They gave him proper notice under the French law. They calculated the severance pay correctly and followed every employment regulations. This was the HR and the legal team. But here is what they missed, the company. His boss terminated him with a letter. One letter. Imagine after 20 years, the management sent him one formal letter. Now, if you know anything about French business culture, you know that this is a problem. Face-to-face conversations isn't just a nice to have, it is a fundamental. It's about dignity, respect for the relationship that you've built. Now, Pierre felt humiliated. Not just that he's fired, he could handle that one, but humiliation, that was a tough one. So what did he do? He remembered that there were some regulatory concerns that he'd raised internally in meetings about some manufacturing processes. Concerns that have been, let's say, put away, dismissed. He reached out to a contact at FDA, not because he was a bad person, exactly the opposite, because there was a sense that if the company couldn't treat him with basic respect, maybe they weren't treating other important things with respect either. The investigation that followed cost the company, you can imagine, millions. And today, Pierre advises 3 of its major competitors. Story number 2, let's call her Dr. Schmidt. She's a German US American who's been raised across multiple countries. It's what we call adult third culture individual. She's been in the pharmaceutical sector and more precisely in this company for 10 years as the R&D leader. And the company merger happens just like the seasons happen in a year, and her role becomes redundant. The management, offered her generic outplacement, the standard package, resume writing, job search, the works. But here's what they didn't understand. Dr. Schmidt, came from a very German business culture. This is what she was about when she was at work, where planning and thoroughness are absolutely sacred. The way they handled her exit felt rushed, almost careless, unpersonalized, like doing the dishes really quickly. She felt disrespected, not just as an employee, but as a scientist who has dedicated a decade of breakthrough research. So she did what any brilliant researcher would do. She documented every single thing, every single action on social media. She started posting about the merger, about how decisions were made, about research projects that got shelved or put away. Professional posts, nothing really problematic, but it was quite revealing. Other scientists started following her posts, and the word spread through the research community. The company lost a big research partnership that they were working on for years because the reputation in the scientific community, boom, took a hit. And here's the funny thing, or the irony of it all, is that Dr. Schmidt's big project now is with her new client. Who is it? Her old manager. He reports to her now. What's the lesson here? When you're dealing with leaders and managers, especially those from cultures that value process and respect, generic solutions will not work. And story number 3, the final story, a manufacturing manager, Indian born, let's call her Alaya. 12 years with the company, brilliant operational mind, worked herself through once again. And there were cost cutting initiatives. Most of her team gets eliminated. How did they tell her? Well, mass email. She was just one of them in that mass email. And to the entire leadership team announcing these changes. Now, if you understand just a little bit about business culture, Indian business culture, you'll know that hierarchy and processes and personal respect are absolutely everything. Being informed about your own termination through a group email is the ultimate, you guessed it, insult. Alaya was absolutely angry, not just about losing her job. That she knew that sooner or later that's going to happen, but about how little regard and respect they showed about her as a person and as a leader within her department and team. What happened next was very surgical. There were 47, yes, I repeat, 47 detailed glass door reviews about leadership and company culture. She created a social media group for former company leaders, and the word spread like wildfire. What was the result? 30% drop in the company's productivity because remaining team members lost all confidence in the management, and recruitment became close to impossible. The company spent more on reputation management than they did on initial restructuring. And just like the others, Alaya didn't disappear. She continued. Maybe she went to another country, but the ecosystem is there. She's now a competitor, and she has the institutional knowledge about process, clients, and what their challenges are. Now, as I'm telling you these 3 stories, do you see a pattern here? In all 3 cases, were companies legally compliant? Absolutely. But were they culturally aware? Absolutely not. Appropriate for leadership level? Not even close. And the result? Leaders who should have become alumni, ambassadors, became critics. Here's the key insight. When you lay off a leader, a culturally diverse leader, they usually just don't find another job like that, you know. They have network, influence, and institutional knowledge. They become what you call a business risk. So what do you do differently? Well, there's some simple and inexpensive ways to going about it, and it takes some time. So before you have that tough conversation, learn about the cultural background. Now, I'm not talking about stereotypes where you take a Hofstede model and you use the categories and place people in the categories. No, I am talking about understanding what respect looks like for them. And who did this really well? Google actually did this using cultural assessments before major transitions. And what they did, they tailored their approach accordingly and according to each leader and manager. Acknowledge their specific contributions. Tell them this is what you did great. We really appreciate it. And then plan the format that honors their level and tenure. Really plan it out. And during the conversation, lead with respect. Explain the business context honestly. Don't hide behind legal and HR jargon. And imagine it's like a very good friend, a family member. Really be there. Who did this well? Salesforce set a great example because when they restructured 2 years ago, the CEO personally addressed all of the managers of teams, explaining the business rationale in simple terms, really clearly, rather than hiding behind that legal jargon and HR wording that nobody really understands. Give them a timeline that fits their role, not a clean cleanup. We're not doing the dishes here, guys. And once the decision has been made, provide leadership outplacement, not a copy paste thing that works for anybody and everybody. It's not this way. I mean, real support, executive coaching, connecting and networking introductions, strategic career planning. Who did this well? Microsoft created this with an impressive alumni networking program that turned former employees into brand ambassadors. And that, I tell you, that creates a great alumni network, and it's possible. Maybe it's not possible everywhere, but look about it, think about it, chat and see how that fits in, and check in regularly once it's implemented. Don't leave it out like a cake in the oven and you didn't put the timer on. All right, be involved, be part of that. The investment, maybe 2 to 3 hours per leader, but the payoff, you protect your international brand and avoid costly fallouts. Look, I get it. Layoffs, especially international, are unpleasant. Nobody wakes up excited to terminate people. No, but here is what I have learned. How you handle these conversations doesn't just affect the person leaving, it affects the people who are staying and those who might be wanting to work in the future, and everyone in that ecosystem and in that network. This really matters because here is the reality. Former employees, like I said, don't vanish into thin air and disappear. They change roles, they become clients, suppliers, advisors, competitors, board members. They influence business and decisions. So, how you treat them during their most challenging professional moment, that's how they'll talk about you for many, many years to come. In our connected world, reputation travels fast. It's difficult to get that trust, but it falls in a snap of a finger. A disrespected former leader can damage your brand faster than any marketing campaign that can build it. So I've lived both sides of the equation, and I understand what it feels like to make these difficult decisions, communicating them, and I know what it's like to be on the receiving end. And you want to hide, you want to avoid it. But if you're planning these transitions globally and want outplacement that is actually culturally aware, a leadership level, and you're really putting that reputation protection on it, know this. The company can be super compliant, but culturally blind when laying off leaders internationally, turning potential ambassadors, alumni into business threats, a risk that can be avoided by taking 2 to 3 hours per leader in a culturally respectful, safe space, need I say. Leadership appropriate outplacement, cater to that role which protects your brand and support their dignity. Okay? Remember this, law does not equal respect. Think about if you were in their shoes. Small cultural details create big business impact, and treat leaders with respect. They can become your greatest ambassadors, not adversaries. Keep in mind, this is about people. Now, if this sounds familiar and you want to keep a stellar company image, and you still may have questions, or be it the case studies that I've mentioned, I've included right below in the captions some of these items that you can read further on. And if you want to chat, no worries, you can contact me right here, and I would be more than happy to have a chat with you. Let's make sure that those international layoffs are done with grace, respect, and dignity. Thank you for joining me. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. See you next time. Bye-bye.